there's all these stories about, guys over in Macedonia who are running these fake news sites.
Number 24 is Content Farms in Macedonia.
Бидејќи ако се направи грешка, таа ќе биде кобна. Нема враќање назад.
So Europe need to remain more sexy lady in the world.
Ајде, мајката!
Господа ја чува Македонија и низините граѓани.
Zoran Zaev and his government have struck a major blow against corruption by seizing, wait for it, 4.5 tons of expired German butter. Yes. In a widely mocked move, Deputy Prime Minister Lupcho Nikolovsky, who was also the minister tasked with fighting corruption after a series of disastrous reports from agencies such as Transparency International, announced that the expired butter had been seized and stated on social media, quote, "The protection of our citizens comes first. I call for a full investigation and accountability," unquote. Meanwhile, back in reality, the true scandals continue. In rapid-fire order, businessman Orce Kamcev has just been arrested. You might remember he was at the center of the first scandal way back in 2017 that eventually brought down so-called chief prosecutor of the Special Prosecutor's Office, Kazuhiro. Health Minister Venko Filipce is involved in yet another scandal regarding the vaccines, this one involving a shell company set up in American Samoa. And even Macedonia's Eurovision entry can't escape a scandal, this time one involving, of course, the Bulgarian flag. We'll discuss all of this and more on this episode of the Macedonian Content Farmers Podcast. I'm Jason Miko, coming to you from the foot of the snow-capped Catalina Mountains in Oro Valley, Arizona.
And this is Cvetin and Jason in Skopje, Macedonia, and I can't believe I'm not in Germany.
We'll get to that in a minute. First, though, we do want, and we got a lot to talk about in this episode 106, which we're recording on Sunday, the 14th of March. We want to encourage folks, because we're now on Substack, we want to encourage folks to sign up once we put that up there. That way, they just get automatic notifications when these podcasts come out, when the article I write on, that I have been writing on and posting on Medium, which I'll still do, we'll start putting that on Substack, and then other content that we want to provide. So we just want to let folks know that we're building a media empire here. And, for the latest news, as well as detailed in-depth analysis of what is going on in Macedonia in English and from a conservative viewpoint, all of that will be on our Substack page. So we want to encourage folks to sign up and subscribe to that. So,
Let's free.
Yes, absolutely. Very few things in life are free. This one's free. We won't take your information and sell it to anybody. Seriously, we won't. So we don't have any. We wouldn't know what to do with it anyway.
Yeah, really. Like I can press fake credit cards.
And or fake butter. Actually, not in this case. It's expired butter. So okay. So this is just, we have to start with this kind of lighthearted quote unquote scandal. That all of these true scandals are going on involving Zoran Zaev and his government, and have been ever since he got into power. And yet, this latest one was just too funny. 4.5 tons of expired German butter. I mean, first of all, I didn't know that butter would go bad, I guess, if you left it outside in the sun in the summer. But, I keep my butter in a little butter dish on the kitchen counter, and it's fine. So I don't know how it becomes expired, and I don't quite understand what the brouhaha is all about.
Yeah, I started keeping frozen compound butter with all types of herbs and garlic and stuff, and that thing lasts forever, I suppose.
Yeah.
But this happens. You have all sorts of shady people importing food from whenever and export. And Zaev was in the past himself charged with exporting pickles who had gone bad to Croatia, I think, or something like that. So that happens all the time. The funny thing here was that Zaev's deputy and very close associate, Nikolovsky, who is kind of like, you can't say a rising star, because that would imply he has done something or has any ability, but he's been mentioned by the internationals more and more. Like, they like to meet with him, even though he's completely...
They're grooming him.
Dense. Yeah, they're grooming him for something. So people are keeping an eye on him at the moment, and he comes out and reveals, he's been tasked with fighting corruption after all the scandals Zaev has had. And the way he announced this spectacular fashion, like we caught people importing butter, somebody's going to be held accountable for this. Yeah, Butterfingers. At the same time, his brother works in forwarding and importing stuff in a company for, like a forwarder company, and they've had like their profits increase. Somebody calculated 2,100 times, 2,100 times, from before when Nikolovsky was minister until after, and compared to after he became minister, they had like 2,000 times more in revenue. And just now, Vimera published that they've been involved in import of tobacco, which is illegal to do. It's very difficult to get a license. So serious crime is being done by this guy, and he's out there catching criminals. His first victory was he forced some no-name person who was appointed to not even director, some kind of like board of some small public company in Bitola to resign because he also had some other office, so like ridiculously lightweight stuff, and now the butter. I mean, this is what they wanna declare victory in the fight of corruption over.
Yeah, well, and it's a they're doing this to draw attention away from the true scandals, two of which I mentioned. I thought we were going to go more into depth on the Venko Filipce. We will, but the latest one this morning, again, as we're recording this on Sunday morning, that just happened today, was the government arrested Kamcev, the businessman, one of the richest men in Macedonia, who was at the heart of the original scandal that brought down Cvetin and Jason, as I mentioned. That was the one involving the extortion, the money laundering, the millions of euros that people still don't know where that money went. That was Boki 13, of course. The famous Louis Vuitton bags. I think it was video footage from Kamcev's house where Boki and his associates walk in with the bags and walk out with the bags full of cash. And so now, what has he been arrested for today?
One of the charges against him, again by Katica, were that he purchased some land on Vodno, where he was building apartment buildings, with a person who is very close to Nikola Gruevski. And they tried to spin this like any other case. Katica was concocting that Gruevski was somehow involved, that he had some money lying around which he couldn't explain the origin of, and then he wanted to purchase land on Vodno and used Kamcev as an intermediary. So it was like trying to get to Gruevski by accusing Kamcev, and then I suppose the idea was to have Kamcev testify against Gruevski, and this was one of the dozen ways they wanted to get at Gruevski and put him in prison.
Huh. Wow. Okay, so he's now in jail for what I think the court ordered him for 30 days of detention. He's not in the same cell or next to Sasha Miyakov, is he?
I don't think so.
It's kind of funny, Cvetin, that Zaev is arresting and putting into prison all of these people who have, I don't know, not only institutional knowledge of Zoran Zaev and his crimes, but probably reams and reams of documents, and yet, for some reason, that information isn't coming out. I don't get it. I know the Balkans quite well, but sometimes it's all a mystery to me, and probably is a mystery to people living in Macedonia and the Balkans as well. How this all works out. Why these people don't just start singing. Boki 13, same thing. He's in prison. He's still in prison too, or is it house arrest? I'm not sure which.
He's, I think, in house arrest now.
House arrest. Okay, yeah. It's just amazing. I mean, we know at the end of the day that all these scandals eventually will bring Zoran Zaev and his government down. That's a fact. It's just a matter of when and how it happens. But all right, we're going to follow that one. But the story that we were talking about earlier this week, that really the Italian newspaper La Verità kind of broke it, I think. And it involves, of course, the vaccines that the government of Macedonia has not been able to procure which there's other scandals around, the EU money, the COVAX, what do you call it? The COVAX program, I guess, that is supposed, money from the EU, etc. So, bottom line is Venko Filipce, the oft embroiled in scandals health minister, tried to purchase the Chinese vaccine, I believe, and was going to do it through a shell company set up in American Samoa, which was also registered in Hong Kong, something like that.
Yeah, the big problem with the Chinese is that, you need to dare yourself to buy the stuff because, it's like a Chinese vaccine and sounds unsafe. It was not supposed to be a problem that once you decide to buy it.
Right.
It was not supposed to be a problem to get the stuff. You should just, pay for it and get it. That's it, I suppose. And they allegedly have greater capacity of production than the Russians and are probably, less concerned about their population, so they would be more willing to export it than the Western producers. So, yeah, it should have been a perfect fit for Zaev after he couldn't get any Pfizer vaccines or anything else from the West. But, he announced we're purchasing 200,000 Chinese vaccines after it became clear that none of the Pfizers are coming. But then weeks later, and he said they're coming until the end of February, and then he said...
February of which year?
Yeah. He said there are delays. Yeah, delays because of the Chinese New Year, so everybody was joking, like, okay, when is January 1st in China, and blah, blah, stuff like that. But then, he said they're going to come by the end of February, nothing happens. And then after a while, Vimera publishers listened. We have reports that the Chinese actually paid back the advance that was given to them for the vaccines, which was suspicious. It seems that the deal is going down. And finally, this Italian newspaper, right-wing newspaper, which has published stuff about Zaev in the past, especially, they published the videotapes which Kamcev made of the extortion. So the paper is somehow linked to Kamcev. So maybe Kamcev's arrest now is like a message to them to stop publishing the stuff. It's, it's very interesting that, of all the distractions which Zaev could have made to distract from this vaccine scandal, he arrested Kamcev. So the paper published messages which the healthcare minister sent to Sinopharm, to the Chinese manufacturers, telling them, okay, we're going to use this company, we're going to have the deal go through them. And the company has only 3 employees. It was set up in the American Samoa and then somehow registered in Hong Kong with a few thousand euros. I think $1,000 dollars
right.
in in assets and a complete shell company. And the Chinese apparently looked at it and said, "Listen, no, we're not doing this. Give us a proper company or a direct country to Sinopharm contract like normal people, and we'll give you the vaccines, but not this way." And seems very likely that the Zaev and Filipce were trying to get like a cut, to give like a good share of the profits to a middleman company for the vaccines. And of all the corruption scandals, this is like a routine scandal for Zaev and Filipce. There have been like half a dozen of these for Filipce himself, and the person, he has been, it was shown that he's purchasing land around Skopje and building like a residential compounds, villas and stuff.
The one on Vodno, I remember driving by it when I was there earlier this year. So
yeah, he's obviously corrupt. But the problem is that, of all the corruption scandals, this one touches on the vaccines. The numbers are really bad now with deaths and infections, and we have 0 vaccines. We used up everything. We have 3,000 doses purchased from Russia, and they've all been spoken for by now, and 8,000 Pfizer vaccines donated by Serbia, and they've all been given. The first dose has been given, so there is like what's that? Like 5,000 people who are going to get vaccines, and that's it, nothing more.
So using the old census statistics, and we know the census is coming up. of 2 million roughly. So you're saying 5, maybe 6,000 people have been received both doses. That has got to put Macedonia at the very bottom of
Yeah.
the countries, all countries in Europe, maybe all countries on the planet, frankly, to have inoculated. And then, as you mentioned, of course, the number of deaths and hospitalizations is going up. There's talk about, well, actually, there's a new curfew in place, right, from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. daily. Okay, yeah. So that's the first. It's almost everything old is new again. Here we are, into year 2 of this pandemic, and it's almost like it's almost like Groundhog Day, the Bill Murray film where every day he wakes up and it's that same day again, and you've got the curfews in place. Probably the government is going to introduce other harsher curfew and lockdown measures, even as it still isn't able to get the vaccine. And the funniest part, I think, what you mentioned about the Chinese company, of course, all Chinese companies are tied in with the Chinese Communist Party, but they were the ones being honest in this situation.
Yeah, that's the weirdest part.
It boggles the mind. So right now, just in terms of the Chinese vaccine from Sinopharm, Macedonia doesn't have an agreement, correct?
Yeah, Zaev eventually acknowledged we tried making a deal with them, then it became difficult, so we tried to do alternative routes, so he's acknowledging, and both he and Filipce acknowledged that they tried to use this completely bogus company in the deal, and we failed. He said we even tried to use like the Chinese construction company which Gruevski brought to Macedonia to build these 2 highways to Štip and to Ohrid, which Zaev was attacking remorselessly. He was prosecuting Gruevski over the contracts, the way they were signed. He insisted that the Chinese company mistook the route of the highway, so it made it dangerous. So then he would cancel the deal. So then he eventually ended up paying almost double what was arranged to kind of like fix the deal. So he has background of both insulting the Chinese and then coming to terms with them at a much greater price, at much greater damage for the country. But yeah, it's very weird that in the end they refused to do a deal with him. It seems that this deal is out. We only have like a commercial deal with the Russians. They gave us 3,000 vaccines. I've said he wants more, but then today we're issuing some press release demanding that Russia releases Navalny. So you can imagine how high on the list of Russian priorities our vaccine shipments will be in the future. So yeah, it's looking horrible at the moment for getting any vaccines.
And Zaev has a history of insulting those who are helping him out, whatever the motivations of those helping him out might be. So with Vucic in Serbia and others who he called an authoritarian or a dictator or something like that, whatever their motivations might be, he has this history of accepting help and then insulting them in one way or the other. And it's interesting. I was reading an article, I think it was Balkan Insight this morning, the far left, quote unquote, news organization, which is funded entirely by various embassies and various governments. So it's not truly a free market enterprise. But it was a lengthy article about the whole region of southeastern Europe, Central Europe as well, and the whole vaccine scandal and how the Chinese and the Russians are getting ahead of, quote unquote, the Western vaccines and getting their vaccines into these countries. Well, okay, they've got vaccines that have been proven effective. They're getting them to these countries. The Western governments, the EU, has utterly failed. And so whose fault is it? Is it the fault of the Russians and the Chinese, or is it the fault of the European Union? Obviously, it's the fault of the European Union. And of course, you would think, and NATO, I guess, doesn't have anything to do with this. You would think that NATO, this would be a perfect opportunity for NATO to step in and with its logistical prowess and everything else and its resources, et cetera, to be able to to help facilitate all this, but it's nowhere to be found in all this. So, you know, I don't. Yeah, it's just you. I can understand why the Chinese and the Russians want to get in there and get their vaccines in there. That's that's part of geopolitics. That's the way the game works. So.
We've been totally vindicated. All of us saying that. Listen, you do not just give up on the name and everything else, and then fall into NATO slap and expect that they'll be taking care of us, security and strategically wise. It's not how it works. You still need to be like a proper independent country and be able to make your own deals, and can't just have only one alternative. If you say I only have one alternative, then pretty soon you'll have none. And this is exactly what happened. I mean, people have actually been saying that after the name change, we'll now be safe from attack from other countries. We're now a full member of the Western Alliance, equal to all the other Western countries. And, it's been clearly shown now with the vaccines that no, we're not. I mean, we're absolutely not.
Well, that's a nice segue into, speaking of, being safe from other countries. One country that Macedonia is not safe from is still Bulgaria. And while Karakachanov is not going to roll his tanks into Macedonia, at least anytime soon, the ongoing issues that Bulgaria has with Macedonia, I have to make that clear, because going back to the Greece's problems with Macedonia, it wasn't the other way around. But Bulgaria's problems with Macedonia continue, and this whole thing has now bled into the Eurovision Song Contest, which of course is a kitschy. I don't know how old is it? Eurovision Contest is what, 50 years old, something like that, 40? I don't know.
Yeah, it's been forever.
But it's all very kitsch and cheesy and everything else. I think last year it was canceled due to the China virus, but. It's going forward this year, and now a new scandal has broken out. So the song is what? Here I Stand, I think is what it's called.
Yeah, something like that.
And the artist is Vasil, I'm looking here.
Garavanliev.
Yes, Garavanliev. Okay, so he recorded this song, Here I Stand, that's the name of it. Apparently everybody is doing a recording of the song in their home country and then sending it to wherever, because of COVID, fine. But he recorded a video. It was recorded in one of the museums in downtown Skopje. And the scandal is that there's a piece of art on one of the walls, which is 3 vertical strips of colored paper with, it looks like photographs. I'm looking at a picture of it right now. Anyway, it's white, green, red, which is the color of the Bulgarian flag. And as I understand it, that's not that sequence of colors in that order is not what the artist intended when the artist put that piece of art there. So it sounds like it was kind of manipulated. Anyway, bottom line is that it looks like a Bulgarian flag. So Vasil said that they're going to edit it so that's not in there. But then, then he acknowledges that he has a Bulgarian passport.
Yeah.
Meaning that he
scandal so far.
Yeah, meaning that he has agreed that one of his ancestors was Bulgarian. Again, I understand why Macedonians are taking out Bulgarian passports because it's EU entry, etc. It's totally based on economics. It has nothing to do with Bulgarian ancestry or citizenship or anything like that. But that's the way the Bulgarians want to portray it. So anyway, what all that means, it doesn't really mean anything at the end of the day. It's a distraction is what it is. It's a stupid distraction. But it proves the point once again that, and of course, the Bulgarian member of the European Parliament, Andrei Kovacev, who is an odious, vile, rotten scumbag, if I can make that clear enough, said that the flag should be left in the video and congratulated Vasil and blah, blah, blah. And the Bulgarians have their elections coming up, I guess, less than a month from now, 3 weeks or so from now. So we will have to follow that. Okay, we've covered our contractually mandated.
There's more.
Oh, sorry.
There's more on the Bulgarians. Remember how once the vaccine scandal dropped about Filipce,
Yeah.
and it was, it was really, really a problem for Zaev, you could tell. And it took them a day to regroup, and then the next day we had Karakachanov parachute himself into the
That's a really
Macedonian
big
politics.
parachute.
Yeah. And he posted this duplicitous Facebook comment like naming members of parliament for Vermerov,
Oh, yes.
Gruevski's father, a bunch of people, and saying, okay, these are just sample names of people who have Bulgarian citizenship. This person has a citizenship in, I don't know, I think he even named cities which are closer to Romania. So Bulgaria issues passports to Macedonians, but also to Bulgarians in Moldova, in Romania. They're trying to build up like a minority situation over there as well. And he said something like, I'm not claiming anything. It's just very interesting that these people have passports. We've given them under this same way under which this singer, who really nobody knew about him until recently, until he became our Eurovision contender representative, got the passport. You declare that some of your ancestors was Bulgarian and that you have Bulgarian origin, and that's good enough for Bulgaria to give you a passport. And I'm not claiming anything, just this is the list, you take it from there. And immediately all the Zaev media here, who were not reporting on Filipce's scandal anyway, they started reporting, look at Vimera, they have Bulgarian passports, they're traitors to the country, can't trust them, crypto Bulgarians, blah, blah, blah. So, it was interesting. Borisov would say, I support Zaev, don't vote Vimera, vote Zaev. He's the person who we could work with. But this was really out in the open to see Zaev have such close cooperation with Karakachanov on covering up daily scandals. Karakachanov, with this, he's adding to the stigma of having a Bulgarian passport in Macedonia, because, even if you take it, you never know when somebody in Bulgaria will use it against you in this ugly propaganda attack. So, he's actually harming what was a vital program for Bulgaria, especially for his party. And, hours later, after SDSM tried to distract the public from the vaccine scandal, he acknowledged, oh, actually, I didn't mean anything by this. At least one of the persons who you think who reacted to this has a passport, but, practically not anybody else, probably not even one person from the entire list. So he actually acknowledged that none of the people he named in Vimera have Bulgarian passports. But yeah, it's very interesting the extent to which, Zaev and Karakachanov have shown they have like daily coordination and cooperation on tactical issues, actually. I mean, you can tell they're working on strategic issues, but this was really a intelligence operation. This is something coming right out of the old Yugoslav and Bulgarian intelligence, who were huge enemies, but would also cooperate on issues. We've seen this time and time again in the past.
Right. Yeah. Well, we will continue following that. We have no choice in the matter.
Yeah.
We have to.
It was really ugly. I mean, I've never seen so many people use slurs about Bulgarians.
Wow.
I mean, this was such a ugly and fake attack, obviously fake attack, and it was really like the worst prejudices we would hold here about Bulgarians. Karakachanov has done so much to destroy the reputation of that country here. It's really incredible.
Now, I didn't mention this in the opening monologue, but another scandal, since we're covering scandals today. Maybe that's the title of this, the scandal episode, starting with butter. This one's more serious. This is the members of the Tigers unit, the Special Forces Police Unit, which celebrated their 40th anniversary. I believe it was yesterday, March 13. So they had a celebration. For whatever reason, I don't understand why. Maybe you can shed some light on this. The Deputy Prime Minister, Artan Grubi, from the former terrorist party, DUI, Ali Ahmeti, and he's a very powerful position that Zaev has given him. He's being groomed, I think, to take over from Ali Ahmeti when he is either passed on or gone to The Hague. But apparently he was at the ceremony and didn't bow at the memorial to the fallen Tiger officers, many of which were killed in the 2001 terrorist uprising by Ali Ahmeti and his band of Jeffersonian democracy lovers. So I don't even know why he was there in the first place. That's number one. Number two is, of course, is that the emblem which is on their uniforms is being redesigned and removing the name Macedonia and being replaced with the country flag. Do you have any idea as to why Gruby was there in the first place? I mean,
it's customary to have a government delegation, and usually Albanians do not go to this commemoration. Obviously, the Tigers lost many men in 2001, and then they lost 8 of their own during the Kumanova fight, the attack on Kumanova, Albania attack on Kumanova in 2015, and both the Učaka in 2001 and the group which attacked Kumanova, they're heroes to Albanians in Macedonia, in Kosovo. They were given, heroic funerals in the memorial cemeteries in Pristina, etc. So, on one hand, Gruby was attacked by the Albanian opposition for even going there, and then it was notable that all the other ministers, they bowed to the monument, like a short bow.
Respect.
But he wouldn't. But he wouldn't. And Zaev had all these pictures completely out of character for him, like beaming, like tough guy, walking around with the backdrop of soldiers, because it was like the 40th anniversary of the creation of the Interior Ministry Special Operations Unit. He was on one hand being the macho tough guy, on the other hand, he was completely defacing the unit, removing. They had like an emblem which said Special Police Anti-Terror Unit Tigers, an emblem of a tiger, I think, and then it said Republic of Macedonia underneath, and now it only has the flag of Macedonia. And, there is no other area where the name change hits so hard than the armed forces, because, you're required to be ready at a moment's notice to go out there and give your life for the country. And if the country is constantly being reshaped, reimagined, redesigned, humiliated in this way, now, it's a country of Macedonians. No, now it's a country of Macedonians and Albanians. No, now it's a country for everybody except for Macedonians who are going to be North Macedonia or citizens of the Republic of North Macedonia, and who do not have a history. I mean, it takes a grounding in history, it takes a grounding, awareness of your family, of the women and children you are protecting, to go out there and fight for something. I mean, it's not a day job, it's not a 9-to-5 job, it's not something you're satisfactorily reimbursed with money like everybody else.
Way of life.
You go out there and you can be killed, and it needs to be for something greater than yourself. And the Zaev is completely removing all of these vital elements of this profession, which is of this calling. And it's ridiculous. I mean, now we're also commemorating the anniversary of the start of the 2001 Civil War. It's, 21 years? No, 20 years.
20.
Sorry?
20 years.
20 years. Oh, yeah, it's
2001.
It's around anniversary, yeah. I forget which year we are now. So, people are also commenting, that's when we lost the country. Everything since has been like a slippery slope, leading us to this point where we're practically stateless, do not have a nation state, with all the trouble that this is going to cause in the future, because, this is not going to stop, and all this reimagining of the nation and the state, it's has this very strong disassociative, this centrifugal nature. So, yeah, it's really ugly.
Cvetin, you make some excellent points there, and I like your rant in a way, because we are conservatives, and you mentioned that they are fighting for something greater than themselves, and that is what we conservatives believe, is that life, our own life, there's so much more to life than just our own selves, whereas our friends on the left seem to be focused on their own selfish wants, not their needs, their wants.
No.
And that I can lay all that directly at the feet of Zoran Zaev and Nikola Dimitrov and Ali Ahmeti and others, is that their wants are power, financial gain, fame, all of these fleeting things, and they have been willing to not trade in but give up all of the things that make life worth living for, and in the case of the Tigers, fighting for, which is Macedonia and its history and its culture and the memory of the men and women who have gone before them, not just in Macedonia's short history as a modern-day independent nation state, but in Macedonia's much longer history before that, going back to World War II, going back to Ilinden, and before that. And our friends on the left want to discard all of that and throw that away and treat it very lightly because, I was listening to Jonah Goldberg the other day in one of his podcasts, who makes the very good point that our friends on the left, for them it's all directional. It's it's always on the right side of history. We're always moving forward. Forward to what? It's always forward to something else. Never satisfied with what you currently have. Whereas for us as conservatives, it's spatial, and that it goes back, stretches back into history, into the mists of history, and that's why history is so important. Whereas for our friends on the left, they don't care about the history and they're going forward. But anyway, you make an excellent point about the Tigers and what they're fighting for. You bring up another good point that this is 20 years since 2001. Maybe we should do an entire podcast just to that. I should probably write an article on that since I've been thinking about it. And I saw some earlier ones about that. It's important to remember that Ali Ahmeti, when he started that war in 2001, as he told David Binder from the New York Times, I think it was at the time, maybe it was Newsweek, he was quoted in, I think, saying that we're, quote, and this is a paraphrase of Ali Ahmeti's quote, that we're fighting for lands which are historically Albanian. We want to remove Slav Macedonians, is something along the lines of his quote. And then, a month and a half later, when he knew he couldn't actually win outright in a war and literally split the country in two, he switched his tune to, oh no, we're fighting for our rights and Jeffersonian democracy and all that other stuff, which of course he doesn't believe in and doesn't even know about it. Anyway, point being that he switched his reason, but that's what they're all still about. And now you've got Albin Kurti in Kosovo, probably the next prime minister there, who's openly states that he wants to see unification between Kosovo and Albania. Of course, the big question is, where would the capital be?
Yeah.
Would it be Tirana or Pristina? And then, of course,
or Skopje.
well, that's the other one. So, the Macedonians, not all of Macedonia's ethnic Albanians, but too many in the leadership of those parties would like to see that as well. So,
yep.
Anyway, and going back to what I wrote, I think it was last week, how much damage has Zoran Zaev done? How has he damaged Macedonia? How much more damage will he cause to Macedonia? How can all that be undone when he's gone? Because as I mentioned earlier, he will be gone at some point. He will no longer be in power. The opposition, Vomero, will be in power. And Vomero's got smart people, I believe, and they need to be thinking about and talking about and making plans using the finest legal minds in Macedonia, as well as the finest legal minds around the world, figuring out how they can undo this damage and to be able to reinstate the name, at least domestically. I don't know if it'll ever be done internationally, because the internationals are stubborn and they don't believe in the international elites, especially the post-Western progressives don't believe in sovereignty in the first place anyway. How all that's going to be done. But anyway, now I'm on my rant. All right. What else we got?
Yeah, well, we have a new song from our Japanese friend Kazuhiro
Kotetsu. So he's with the Tokyo Opera, I believe. A couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months ago. I lost time, as you have. He recorded and put on YouTube, his YouTube channel, a Macedonian song. He's got a new one, Zemjo Makedonska, which is an absolutely beautiful song. I would love to learn it and be able to sing it. Maybe I should make that a goal, Cvetin. But yeah, he just put that out a couple of days ago. Beautiful rendition, and and I saw that, and I tweeted it, I Facebooked it, and whatnot, just to show again, I think that Macedonia has many friends around the world, and I think that he did this because he loves music, number one, and something about Macedonia has attracted him to Macedonia, and so he is giving back to gift, as it were, by singing some of Macedonia's most famous songs. So, did I say, or did you say that's our farmer's pick?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
we had him once as a farmer's pick. This is the
Right.
return of Kazihuro.
Yes. Actually, maybe so. This is the second, the second time that an individual has made our farmer's pick. Third time, I think they get a gold jacket.
Yeah.
So anyway, we'll put that up there for folks to listen to and admire and share with their friends, explicitly remembering that Macedonia has many friends around the world, and I think that's a good way to end this podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really a great song. It gained popularity as we were declaring independence, so it practically was endorsed, as you would say, as our second national anthem. And it was performed by Simon Gugulovsky, who was my neighbor. And he was actually like a political dissident. He was being prosecuted by the Yugoslav regime, his wife too. They were declared Bulgarian sympathizers. And, this is a legitimate, when Bulgarians say the communist regime was persecuting people for Bulgarian, being declared as Bulgarian sympathizers. There is some truth to that, not in the numbers which Bulgaria states. Most of the people were persecuted for Macedonian patriotism, and Simon actually was there to sing this song as a call to independence from Yugoslavia and also to do away with the old regime. But this is really a very emotional song. It's been done since then a number of times by many artists, and this is really a great version of by this Japanese singer. It's really good to remember it.
Yeah, excellent, good. We'll put that up there for our farmer's pick, so and for people to enjoy and to share.
Okay, well, we'll see, I guess, what craziness next week brings. We've definitely been accelerating the craziness in the past period.
Well, it was it Churchill who said the Balkans produce more history than they consume, and I think Macedonia produces more craziness than it consumes.
Well, definitely, it's really becoming a lot.
All right, talk to you next week.
Okay, buddy, take care.
You too.